Hi, everyone. Sean and Andy are here. Nice to see you all. So sorry about that. We were actually chatting, thinking we were live for about 5 minutes. And lo and behold, I look up at the screen there and it says go live. I'm like, I hit that button. I know I hit that button. I've hit that
Gremlins.
button a lot of times. Yeah,
It's Gremlins.
gremlins. Yeah. So my apologies, to everyone, on the tardiness there. I'm going to go through and say hello to everyone again, real quick. We've got Gap After Dark is here. Canadian Spider-Man dropped in, even though he's out in the wilderness, I think. Snorter
Appropriate.
Poopus. I'm sorry.
Appropriately, he's always out in the
Yeah.
wilderness.
Oh yeah. Anti-derivative Jill is here saying hello. I saw Tony Stark pop in. Hail to my brother Tony. Gwagnar is here. Thank you so much. Snorter Poopus Cuber with his wrench. And a whole bunch of other folks. I've got John. Len McIsaac is here. Trek Mods. Trek Mods is great. He sends me some great stuff. He's got a channel of his own there, and we're going to have Trek Mods on if he's willing at some point. Theta Zord here, the great Transformer, and a whole Miskatonic Madman. A lot of people. Wow! Thank you everyone for showing up on this debut. It really, really is something. Oh, William Shake Skeletor. Look at this. The William Shake Spielberg Skeletor. Anyway, yeah. Well, Andy, thank you so much for being here on the debut. And we'll do take two here. And so if you can, I mean, you and I mean, I'm kind of just getting into the YouTubing thing, but we kind of both met each other. We kind of both do creative stuff, but we met each other through kind of a pop culture things. If you can let us know like how your journey up until like where we met, like the story we were talking about before.
So I started making action figures for my son. I got him into collecting Star Wars when he was just a baby. Picked up his first Hasbro 12-inch action figure on clearance. Started compiling the collection. So when he got older, introduced him to the movies and bring out all these toys. And it was hard because Hasbro did a limited number of their 12-inch figures. So I noticed I would miss some. I would get in there and I would find the shelf empty. Like, well, I got to figure out how I'm going to know when these things are coming out. So I found Sideshow Collectibles. I found there were a whole bunch of, back in the old days of the forum chats and so forth on the different channels that you had. And so I would go on there and they would announce like, here, these things should be coming soon. They should be shipping. Keep an eye out for things. And so they also had little areas on there where they would teach you how to customize and make your own action figures, like, just basic head swaps and things like that. And so I started working with that. My daughter was getting into American Girl doll, and those things are really, really expensive. They're like $100 a piece, and the outfits are like $30 a piece, and my outfits weren't even $30 a piece. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get that sewing machine. I'm going to learn how to do these things because I can't afford to go buy my little girl all these little outfits. So I figured, let me try this. Let me try and put these things together. There's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of taking things apart and putting them back together. So then I had made my son his action figure, and I had to make my daughter her action figure. So I had little Jedi Glenn, Jedi Aaron. I took an Anakin figure, an episode 1 Anakin figure, and I popped the head off. As strange as that sounds. And I sculpted one of my son. I put his head on there. And so he had his little Anakin there and a little Jedi outfit with blue as his favorite color. He had this whole blue scheme, and he had his little lightsaber there, and he would be battling it out, and we would recreate scenes, and I would build him little sets that he could play in, and he would have his bad guys, and I would make it as much like episode 1 as I could, and did some environments, basically very crude cardboard things like that he could play in. And of course, my daughter wanted in on the act, and so I made hers, and she was all into like swinging around on ropes and like in tying to the ceiling, and she would swing them around. And she was, and her favorite was Dora the Explorer, so she would always be playing with the little animals and stuff like that. But she loved the idea that she could participate in the action with the toys. It's like, oh, look, I'm here too. And I had went on. I'd done a couple things for people. Then the kids were like, "Oh, we have to have you too." So I had to make my own figures so they could, Glenn could be my little Padawan.
So you made yourself.
Oh yeah.
So okay, I know, and so you brought up earlier about sculpting. So like you do the actual heads. Do you have a sample? Because I know some of the people who may not know you, the people from our channel may not know what I'm talking about. Do you have a little example there that you can show us what, maybe even one in progress?
Here is okay. So here is, let's see. Here's whoops, losing your head here. Here's Tom Connors. Now I have this set up because there's a very specific reason that will be coming out very soon about how I'm going to feature Tom, and I love Tom. Tom's a great guy.
Tom's awesome.
But I'm going to be making fun of him a little bit, like I do with, like right now I've got my setup back here. It's all set for Halloween. I've got Mexican Iron Wolf Man.
And folks, these are all custom. Like just so you know, Andy makes these things from scratch. Like he has is it clay, right? Did you mold them out of clay?
Well, I start off with clay. Like here is Gary Ambrosia,
Nice.
vampire Gary Ambrosia. He's got his whole vampire outfit on. So I'll start off with Super Sculpey Firm. Anybody who's been to an arts and crafts section has seen Sculpey. It's a polymer clay that you can sculpt and then you cure in the oven and it becomes hardened. Regular Sculpey is far too soft to work with for most things. It doesn't hold things. If you breathe on it wrong, it will have an indentation on it or something. It's very, very troublesome to work with. They do have this option though. And 1 second, I'll reach over there.
Okay, well, Andy's going there. Herc 130. Hi, Herc. He says, "Isn't Gary Ambrosia and Vampire Gary Ambrosia the same guy?"
So this is Super Sculpey Firm. Okay. Well, it's funny because I got Ranker Steve Nosferatu version over here. I've got Robert Wright in a mummy outfit back there. I'm working on, doing like, the regulars and things. I have probably about 6 sculpts concurrently being worked on right now, because you have to put them up for a little bit, because you will not see them objectively after a while. You will start to look at things and you'll not see the flaws, and you have to put them up for a day or two, even a week, and you come back to them like, how the hell did I mess that up? Why is it so lopsided there? Why is this side of the face pushed in?
I totally understand where you're coming from with that, because I've done a little painting before now, and one day I got in my head, I'm gonna paint Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and I painted it, and I used an image of Spock doing the thing from A Mock Time, and I was so proud of it, and I put it away, and 3 days later I came back and looked at it. I'm like, that is horrible. So I know what you're right. You have to disengage from it for a while.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, also, sometimes as creators, maybe it's different for you with sculpting faces, but if I'm painting or I'm doing a model, and I'm so focused in on 1 millimeter of the work, and I don't like it, but then when you step back from it a foot away, which is we normally look at things from a foot or 2 feet away.
Yeah.
And when you're like this, you see every flaw, but you don't, that's not what people see. And sometimes you have to allow yourself those mistakes. But
well, ironically, so it's a little bit of a backstory with this. So during this whole, like when COVID hit, I had been sculpting things at various points to try, and I had my own collection, and I would make things for to flesh out what hadn't been made. I have a huge Buffy the Vampire sideshow collection. It's 99% complete. I think I'm missing two of the gentlemen, the that version of the Buffy figure. Although I have the separate head that went along with it. I think that's the only thing that I might be missing out of the entire run.
Wow.
But there's a lot of things they didn't make. And so I made a Clem figure, the skin demon thing. I
Mhm.
made the original vampire that they had from the last season come out, where it was like very primitive looking vampire. Um, so I would add to my collection with it, and um, probably the most poignant one I did was my brother Ed. He and I've got three brothers, and my brother and Ed, I were very close. We lived together for 30 years. He got diagnosed with cancer, and uh, they went in, did surgery. It was throat cancer. Um, Took out all the cancer, put him on chemo. Everything looked good. But when he got diagnosed, I started working on his own action figure for him, and
Mm.
he uh, dog starts sniffing around in his neck, goes in, gets checked out, cancer's come back. So they put him back on another round of chemo for 16 weeks. He's feeling really down, really depressed. So I hurry up and I cobble this thing together. It's like, and he was a big guy. He was um, 6'1" and 225 pounds, well, 245 pounds, anywhere in between there. He would fluctuate from, and at 49 years old, he was squatting 800 pounds. He was
Wow.
incredibly strong. Um, Great martial artist. We had so many things in common. We would talk to each other pretty much every day, and we would start off the conversation with movie lines. And he would do a bit of dialogue, I would do a bit of dialogue, and we would just play out the scenes. And we I bring this thing over to him. I get this big body. It was like at the time it was a Hot Toys body, and they had this basically Arnold Schwarzenegger body that they had made for the Terminator figures. And for a very brief period, they started selling standalone bodies. So I put this thing on him, and like I dress him up, and his favorite character was Thor. Put him in a sweatshirt, a hoodie sweatshirt that looked like Thor's top with the armored arms and the red and the blue, the red hood. Those are like a cape,
Mhm.
and the blue with the little armor pieces on there. And give him a guitar and an amp because he played the guitar very badly, but he liked it. So I bring this over to him and I hand him the box. I didn't have a chance to do a custom box with it. I hadn't really got
Mhm.
perfected that part yet. And so I call him up and I was like, "You gonna be home?" He's like, "Yeah, why?" Like, I just got something for you. He's like, "Yeah, I'll be here." And I could hear the heaviness in his voice. He was just really down. So I pull over there and I walk in his door, and his chair is facing the TV away from me, like his back's to me. He's like, and all the surgery on his neck, he couldn't turn it. I said, "What do you got for me?" So I hand him this box, and I can't see his face as he opens it up. And he turns around and he's got the biggest grin on his face that he's looking at this. And he says to me, "This might be the coolest gift I've ever gotten."
Yeah.
And from that point on, he it stayed on his entertainment center. Nobody was allowed to walk in the house without going out to check his action figure out. Sadly, he passed away a couple years later. But uh,
Well, at least he had plenty of time to enjoy that though for a couple
well,
years. Yeah.
we even had it there next to his urn at the
Oh,
at the
wow.
wake. So everybody was like, but that was that moment of bringing joy to somebody who's having a really crappy time.
Mhm.
That was so pivotal to me. That was like such a high. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's when as an artist, and I'm sure you'll get this, Sean, like because it's you don't just create something, you pour yourself into it.
Yeah.
You're there's got to be a creative passion to it. There's got to be something that's it's truly personal to it. And so every piece that somebody gets, every one of your starships that you send off to somebody, um, they open up, and it's not just something that like a model kit that somebody's put together. It's your time, your effort, your meticulous attention to detail that has gone into that.
Yeah.
That effort that's somebody opens up and they look at this thing like, oh wow, that is so cool. And it's even better is that like, that's Sean Carter's that he sent to me. It's like it's not just somebody else's that's sitting on a shelf. It's yours.
Yeah.
Now what I did, I was on YouTube because I had time in my hands with COVID. And the first guy I came across was Doomcock. I see this character in the outlandish outfit, and he's talking about Star Wars and like how disappointing Star Wars was. Like crap. Yeah, up until this point, I thought Star Wars or YouTube was for how do I fix my washer or listening to music. I
Yeah.
had no idea this
Yeah.
whole genre existed or this whole fandom or anything.
Sure.
So I hear this going on, and the time he was doing the show with Nerdrotic on Sunday nights, the Inquisition, and these guys are like, it's like you're sitting there in a room having a conversation with your friends, and just kind of like listening as these guys are bantering back and forth, saying the same things you're thinking. So I like, you know what, they mentioned they like action figures, so um I'm gonna try and make a Doomcock figure and a Nerdrotic
Hmm.
figure.
Hmm.
So I had no idea how I was going to get it done. Um, at the time, I'm remodeling my downstairs bathroom because the house is 100 years old. And it was time, and so I'm ripping everything out. And the whole time, my wife's like, "Do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're doing?" Like, I work construction. I know what I'm doing. Like, are you sure you know? So I get the whole thing done. She's like, so of course, rather than say thank you, she goes and buys me this Cricut machine, like that. I have no idea what a Cricut machine is, with a note on it says, "Don't think I don't appreciate you."
Ah,
That
can
was,
you explain what that is? I know you've shown me what a Cricut machine is, but do you have? Is it? It's a little portable, right?
oh no, this one's big.
Oh,
It's about the size
oh,
of a
okay.
computer printer.
Yeah,
And
explain what that is if you can, so the people here could
so
know.
it's basically the same thing as a computer printer, and you can print things with it, you can draw things with it. You feed it in, and it digitizes everything. What I tend to use it for is it cuts out vinyl. It will cut out iron-on vinyl. It'll cut out stick-on vinyl, and that's what I use
Mhm.
to make the. And so I see these things. It's got this iron-on vinyl because I had no idea how I was going to do the embroidery on the Doomcock outfit. Um, I ordered these little metal rivets and put them on, and so
Oh wow.
I got this thing together, and I had no expectations. I popped the thing off in the mail. I didn't. I just put my name and address on the package, sent it off, and so I'm in the gym Friday night, and he starts his Friday night show, and I'm in there working out, and I hear him talk about like, well, I hear you guys want to see the Doomcock action figure. I'm like, oh, cool, he got it. It's like so he's talking about this thing. He's making such a big deal out of it, and I sent him a little. If you can see him in the back, it's J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot, but
Oh right, yeah, I
all
remember that.
banged up and dangling. So I sent him a super chat to let him know that there was this little crude electronic switch in the back that you could turn lights on inside. And I used these little LED candle lights because they would flicker. So it would look like his eyes were broken. They were just kind of flickering as he's sitting there. And so he like, are you on Twitter? Do you want to come on the show? I'm like, I have
I
no
was
idea how to
listening
do
to
this.
that stream. I remember that super chat that you sent. And real quick for those of you who are from outside of what we've been referring to as Xanadu, basically people that have subscribed to my channel and don't know us through what Doomcock is Overlord DVD. That's the the YouTube channel. And maybe if Jill or Tony, if someone could put a link up to that channel in the chat, so some of the newcomers here can check him out later. But
So,
yeah, so sorry, I had to go. Proceed, please.
oh, so and at the same, about a week later, I sent out the Nerdrotic figure and shipped that off. Of course, I didn't realize that Gary Beekler never checks his PO box, and it sat in there for about a month. And so I'm sitting around and I'm like, I'm watching these various YouTube shows, and I saw the Friday Night Tight Show. They had and he dressed up in a hot dog outfit, and I thought that was the funniest thing that I could. So I'm like, I want to make that, and I'm like, Az is kind of heavy. I don't want to be a dick. I don't want to like make and this is a hard thing to do with people because there's a line. Okay, so when I make an action figure for somebody, you want this thing to be flattering to them. You want them to enjoy. You want it to be something they're proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line there. Like, I don't want to make this thing look like obese, and I don't want it to, And so I send this thing off to Az, and I didn't think it. I never put a note or anything in these, and I just kind of send them off like guerrilla warfare. So I send this thing off, and I see him put a thing on Twitter, and or Gary had finally gotten his and opened it up, and he put a Twitter post out, and and Az was opening up his and he was showing it off on a stream he did with Robert Meyer Burnett, and
Mm-hmm.
he said, "I got this thing." Is like that. He put a post on Twitter, and he was talking about this, and he said, um, "I had no idea this is." He said, "I'm not a jealous person. I don't get jealous, but I saw that Gary gets like, man, nobody ever makes something like that for me." And he's like, and the next day it shows up at my door, and it was like, I don't believe in God, but for that moment, I'm sitting there thinking, maybe just maybe, like, and I'm like, yeah, as see, there is God. He's telling you, like, somebody is wanting to do something nice for you. And then I went on from there, and I started. I had no intention of going on with this. It was just like, and then I came across Drunk 3PO, and he's done so much charity work, and I'm like, you know what? This guy, and of course, I like to throw my sense of humor into these things. I like to be a little outrageous, a little silly,
Mm-hmm.
and so I make him an action figure dressed in a Mandalorian outfit, but the Mandalorian armor looks like C-3PO. So he's all dressed up in his C-3PO armor and stuff, and I sent him a gonk droid that doubled as a beer cooler. You could open it up, and it went along with the whole theme of Drunk
Yeah.
3PO. So he opens that up, and that was really, and that was, I had no intention of going any further with it. And then those guys had the whole falling out with Zack Snyder, and I was like, well, that's kind of shitty. And Anna, that Star Wars girl, came out with a video about defending geeks and gamers, and how her sister had gone missing and she passed away.
Mm.
And Jeremy Griggs had reached out, and he organized this whole, got people mobilized looking for her sister. They sadly found her, and she had passed.
Mm.
Um, and I'm like, you know what? This guy, he organized a GoFundMe to pay for all the funeral expenses and stuff. I'm like, let me see if I can do something nice for him. And so what I did was, I'm looking at these various content creators. I'm trying to find something that was sort of like signature. Like Doomcock was easy because he's a character in and of himself. He
Right.
is
You didn't have to think of anything. And if I can, I want to put a pin in that. I have to say I'm flattered. Theta Zord just sent the very first super chat I've ever received.
wow.
Theta
Thank
Zord,
you very
thank you
much.
so much, brother. Wow. Man, that feels cool. Thank you so much. He says, "Thank you, Sean and Andy, for your advice on customizations for my figures." Well, that's for Andy. I don't have any advice because I can't build those things. I am not scratch buildy type of guy, really. But wow, thank you, Thetasaur brother, and looking forward to having you on to talk about your stuff. He does some great Transformers things.
Scratch building is a wonderful thing to get into. I started doing this with I've made all these different action figures.
Mm-hmm.
But what I feel, I like, well, I grew up with toys, and I was a nerdy little kid, like so many of us, and we sit around and like our toys become our best friends, and I I would always build things. My favorite things were when we would get a deliver like a new washing machine was so exciting because I had this gigantic cardboard box that could turn into a building. I used to play with the 8-inch Mego figures, and
Yeah.
um, and they would have their little and have windows, and you could blow the thing up, and the Hulk would smash things and stuff. But um, statues are statues, and statues you walk in, you dust them off, but they're always in the same position.
Hmm.
You get an action figure and they can change position. So when
Yeah.
I got into the high end stuff, when high end uh, Sideshow acquired like a subcontracting license from Hasbro for the 6 scale stuff, and they put their first Luke Skywalker up, Return of the Jedi Luke, for $40. And I'm thinking to myself, there is no way in hell I'm spending $40 for a toy. It's like that's outrageous. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Um, um, Now Hot Toys figures are approaching $300, in some cases over $300, and I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, I may buy one of them a year, but it's a collectible. They're not toys. They're not. If you give them to a kid to play with, you've got too much money that you know what to do with, and uh, they're fragile. They will break and they will get messed up.
Wow. Oh my God. I just saw two more. I want to burst into tears here. We got SP4H has sent in a five that I'll be number two. Ha! I've ID'd most of what's on the shelves. Oh yeah, and if you guys have a keen eye there, right behind me, right there, that's the Enterprise D that we're. I think I got chapter 9 coming soon. It's not even. It's finished, but I'm not showing you any more than that. And then Nick from the Echo Base Network is here. Oh my goodness, with 1999. Number two, well, we'll say both he and SP4H are number two. Just got home a bit ago and are now relaxing. Wish you guys could have been there in Nashville this weekend.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you were there. Tony was there. And I heard you guys had a good time. I'm anxious to hear the stories that you're allowed to tell.
I
if
would
there
have
are any.
I would have been there, but I had had a prior commitment. I had my obstacle course race scheduled up, and I have a whole team behind me,
uh,
so I didn't just bail on them. I was already committed to it. So it's like,
yeah, I wanted to go too, but I have a trip coming up and I couldn't make it. But
yeah,
and then yeah, we're gonna all meet up at some point for sure. But Nick, SP4H, Thaser, thank you guys so much. Wow. Oh my God. Look at this.
there you go.
Congrats
Wow.
on monetization, Miskatonic, madman.
Yeah.
And Tony can't give any. Oh, Tony, you don't have to give anything, brother, man. Thank you so much. Wow.
Yeah, you folks
That's
in the chat, just watching and just tuning in, that's reward enough. I mean, it's like, we get out here, we do this stuff. Like Sean and I will make these things because we love the act of creation. We love like
yeah.
doing these things. It's like then the fact that somebody finds it entertaining and watches it is flattering. It's like there is nothing that's, anything that's uh egotistical or arrogant about people like coming and putting things together. We're not looking to become, oh, we're going to be rich and famous. And no, you do this stuff and you scrape by and you put things together just because you want to share things. It's like scratch building. I use a lot of styrene in my little sets that I build, because if you're putting something on a shelf, a lot of times the shelf might not be able to handle that much weight. A lot of these background pieces that they do this stuff called polystone. It's basically a resin with sand mixed into it, so they get very, very
Mhm.
heavy. And if you're not paying attention to what you're putting them on, like a lot of people will use these glass detail shelves, and for the most part, they're very, very sturdy. But I have seen
Mhm.
people overload them and they will collapse. I've also seen people like have these earthquakes and things, and it'll shake, and there goes their display. Um, but it's styrene is a wonderful tool to work with because it's lightweight. You can
Yes.
you can put it together. There's a whole bunch of different shapes. Um, it's kind of like building almost like regular construction. You can get uh, just evergreen. I think it's Evergreen Plastics has a multitude of shapes you can buy on Amazon, and you can make
Yeah.
studs and wall frames and things that you can build these things with.
Yeah, I've
It's
used it a little bit. I've
yeah,
done a little bit of scratch building, and it was a shame. It was something I sent to Tony, and I built him. It was a Megatron and a Starscream from Transformers, and the little diorama was all styrene. And I
yeah,
was doing it. It was like the Decepticon ship, and like you're saying, there are different thicknesses. There's some that's almost you can see through. There's some that's very thick. There's rods and dowels and square things, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff. And if anyone's interested in doing that, Adam Savage from Mythbusters, I don't know if he's got a cool YouTube channel because he got his start in modeling, doing science fiction ships for I don't know what movies he did, but he talks about like layering that styrene on top of each other to give depth and texture and stuff. So
yeah.
if you could talk more about that, because that's something I want to get into, and I've done a little bit. I've got a bunch of styrene out in the shop, and I think some folks here have done stuff. Obviously, Terry, who does the Monsters House, which we're going to show at some point down the line. But if you could talk about that, because I know you have some stuff in the background there that are
Well,
probably styrene.
a lot of my skill level has increased in the last couple of years. I through the Doomcock show, I met Gary Ambrosia, and he's since become like like the little brother I never had, and uh, he worked in Hollywood, working in
Mhm.
prop shops and things, and his ability to build and uh, um, fabricate and weather and photograph things and light things is amazing. Ranker Steve is he went to the college for lighting and editing, and he's a genius when it comes to like how to light things a certain way to make it look something that's more than just a bunch of things thrown together. And I've gotten a lot of pointers, especially in the area of molding and casting. Now,
Mhm.
molding and casting is like it covers a multitude of areas, and I find that it's more fun for me to have an action figure sitting in an environment that makes it look where they belong. It's like it brings it to life. I've shown these things to people, and uh, they have you put it onto something, and now it looks like it belongs there. It's like a snapshot out of
Mhm.
a movie or a scene, and but you can change it up. You can have like you could have I did figures for Nick and Coach, and because like Star Wars and like that's been a big theme of mine, and
Yeah.
it's I've been making Jedi outfits for a long, so I threw these things together, and I worked my butt off to do these Hoth outfits to, and but I give them a little basis. It looks like the little frozen snow and things like that in Hoth with the little plates in there, and I just find it brings it to life better. So what I did, I made the original, and I made a mold of it. There's a whole process, and there's a lot of different mold making materials you can get. I tend to use silicone. I'll either use tin cure or platinum cure. The Joanne Fabrics has a little platinum cure thing. I can pick up a kit really cheap because they put these 50 or 60% off coupons out every once in a while. So
Yeah.
I see one, I grab that and I put it off to the side. Because a lot of these, if I'm making something I'm going to be reusing a mold for, then I'll keep it around. But you can make molds of these and you can put the stuff together, and whenever you need one, you can just pour some resin in there. Now there are some drawbacks with working with some of the resins. They will tend to deform if like you try to make a structure out of it. You do have to have something in the back, like when you plan out your mold, to have it supporting itself, like with kind of like little studs and columns in there so that it holds it up. Or you
Yeah.
can use things like uh, fiberglass, which holds itself much better, is much stronger, and you can work with that. But I highly recommend doing these things that like, so if you're doing something, say you wanted a uh, Starfleet kind of space station set up there, you can look at the way things are set up, and you layer things in, and it's just you can do all kinds of tricks to make things appear to have depth to them, like
Hmm.
using a bevel cut on something. Styrene is great because all you have to
Sure.
do is score it and snap it. But you can
Yeah.
add a bevel edge to it. You can do, a couple of different layers. You can add little greeblies and stuff and little things
You can
that you
score
find
it.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
and but you can also there's the little shapes. You can put the shapes together, making into other
Yeah.
things.
And
So it,
and what I do too, maybe you tell me if you do this too, but when I've done stuff like that, you use like panel lining and like it's the stain basically. And if you do that down in those recesses, it adds a little bit more depth to those things. And
yeah.
real quick, before you show that, I see Brian Daniel sent a super pair,
Wow, there you go.
which I saw it earlier. It's not showing up on the screen, but I see it here in the chat. Thank you, Brian. And that's really great. And real quick, Andy, there's one more uh thing that someone said here. Oh, while I'm doing that, there was someone back in the chat. I think it was Herc 130s that they're currently working with resins that you were talking about. I had to go. They have the volume. I think it's Herc 130. Maybe not. I don't know. But go ahead. That looks like a Gronk droid.
Yeah, there's like, so I had legs on it and what I did was I actually put these things in here so they move a little bit like this.
Ooh.
It doesn't give it a whole lot of like, but you could change the position. I was
Uh-huh.
thinking about doing it so it could like, I could do a little stop motion thing with it. I had made this years ago and I plan on like redoing it, revisiting it and making a mold, making some unique things that I can play around with it. But it's, just sort of a little,
Yeah.
little thing that you can put together and it's
So you
very
did that
lightweight.
scratch build? That was
Yeah,
styrene that you put together?
yeah.
How did
So
you get
if
the bending? Because I see that where it's curving around, it doesn't look 90 degrees. Are those all
so
separate pieces and then
w-
you
what I
sanded
did
them?
was I built a box on the inside, and then I took slanted panels and I put them in and cut them into place and then put the top in.
Uh,
There's the box on the inside is just another panel laid in on the inside. You see this little groove here. There's another
uh-huh.
piece on the inside that sits across there, and then you have the same thing on the top. Little circular pieces, and you can plug hoses in and whatnot. There's little wire protectors that you can pick up at Home Depot. I had them wrapped around the little legs that move back and forth.
Oh, like the little spring, yeah, I know what
Yeah,
you're
it
talking about.
looks it's
It's
corrugated. It's pretty
like
cool.
like a tube,
Yeah.
the rubber tube. So all that and those things are right there that you're showing. Those are different pieces of styrene layered onto each other.
This is actually flat styrene, and you can go on Blick Art Supply, and
Uh-huh.
because if you buy these sheets of styrene, they're very expensive. It'll be like $15-20 for a um, 0.6 millimeter thickness of 12-inch by 15 inches.
Mhm.
But if you go on Blick Art Materials, they sell large sheets of styrene for sign making. So
Oh,
don't
okay.
tell them about this because they'll raise their prices. But it's $11 for a
Yeah,
2 foot by 3 foot sheet, and you cut that down into what you want, and you can make it into whatever shape and things
y
that you want. But you use the little plastic model, the
yeah.
little orange model glue, and
I
it's
have to admit, I have gone to Harbor Freight, I've gone to Lowe's and Home Depot, and I get things that are much cheaper than I get at Hobbytown
yeah,
but even though I do try to support those stores as much as I can, and it's
yes,
important, I think that we do. I try not to order off Amazon if I can avoid it. I'd rather go into a store. Uh, I've got a place that's 40 minutes from me that I go to,
yeah.
just to go there. But sometimes you have to go there. But so that was one piece. But I was saying like you put like some little knickknacks on there that
Oh
were
yeah,
from different pieces of styrene that you cut out.
right. And the good
And
thing about working with styrene is you can take like if you've got you say you swing by and you pick up scale is important. Okay, so you have
mhm,
to have things that will mix and match. But you can pick up some of these old uh maybe you find some models on clearance somewhere. You put them in, you can take a piece from this one piece and you can use the same glue and put it on there and it look,
mhm,
oh wow, it fits in. It's a little and that's basically what Hollywood does. They grab a piece here, do this and put it there and plug it
yeah,
in. It's like and nobody's stopping to look at it. It's like what you were saying earlier about like the painting detail. You get in there and you're doing all this little work nobody's ever going to say it because nobody's going to pick this thing up and like and really look at it and and
Right,
it's
but
like
when you put a lot of that together and then step away, it adds this incredible depth. I think one of the best examples of that was the Nostromo from
yeah,
the first Alien movie. If you go back and look at that ship, there is so much. It's almost too much detail. Like now, by
yeah,
today's standards, like no a ship would really look like that. It looks like Spaceball One. It's just there's so much, but it's still cool. Uh, but that's the whole trick. And the other thing that does for anyone who hasn't done that is you put enough of that on and it gets rid of the need to get rid of seam lines.
yeah,
So if you have a lot of seam line, you put a lot of that stuff, you can get away with a little bit more.
yeah. The the molding and casting has really been and Gary introduced me to the idea of degassing your silicone first, which is very, very important. It will get you a better because the resin heats up very, very hot, and
Mhm.
gases will build up. And if there's gases inside your mold, it will deform your casting.
Right.
So you want to degas that inside of a vacuum pot, and then when you're casting, you put it inside of a pressure pot. And I use it's a paint container from Harbor Freight, and I put it in there and seal it down and uh, pump some air pressure into about 40
Mhm.
psi, and it pushes out all the little air bubbles into like a microscopic size, so
Yeah.
that you can't really see it. Like when you look at it's a much nicer casting that you get, and also using things like mica powders for different finishes. Like and you should have Gary on; he'll explain this stuff in much greater detail. Check out
Yeah.
his channel; he goes into a lot of how tos and things on his channel, and it's really helped me. And
Yeah, if one
that's
of the wrenches can put Gary's channel, I forget the name of it. What is it, Andy?
it's just Gary Ambrosia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, Gary Ambrosia. If you guys, yeah, he does some cool stuff. He doesn't talk much in his videos. It's just more he just shows it like little steps. Very very
Yeah,
to the
I've said
point.
that to him. He's because he's like, no, I don't want it to be about me. I want people to see how to do this
Sure.
stuff. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, there's things that you say in these things that are little pointers, and like, yeah, you can, but inflection and emphasis on different components really puts you um, into a frame of mind. Like, I really have to listen to this. It's like something you may have missed. Plus, um, you put it on and you can listen and you can watch and you can
Mhm.
read at the same time,
Yeah.
which I think is important. And we've talked about that a bit. And he's like, yeah, I know I should, but he makes a big production of everything he does because he's a trained filmmaker, and he
Mhm.
wants things to look a certain way, and it kind of slows down the creative process, but it's
Yeah.
they come out very impressive. I just
Yeah,
kind
the
of throw
videos
things
are
together.
good. They're very edited, put together well. The camera angles are good. He knows how to make a film, and that does it does help. But it would be cool to hear him talk about stuff. But hopefully he will be willing to come on the show here and
Yeah.
talk about his stuff. I wanted to say hi to a couple people that popped in. Mark Ware says hello. Sorry I'm late. Terrible health issue. Oh no.
Ooh.
I hope you're okay. I mean, wow. Yeah, I hope you're fine. Um, Herc 130 said the Millennium Falcon has so many M4 Sherman tank pieces used for detail. If you know the kit, you can identify the part. Well, yeah, probably so. I have a Falcon I haven't built yet. James Gill has apparently can't figure out how time zones work, but maybe next time I'll put UTC in the announcement. And Tony put Gary's channel there.
Thanks, Tony.
So um, now, if we can, it looks like we're at peak thing. I think now might be a time if we can, if you can stick around
Oh yeah,
and do the drawing.
drum roll.
Are we okay? Is everyone for if we can? Anyone in the chat maybe who has entered the drawing, just put a little yes or a one or something in there because I'm hoping we got people that entered the contest there. I think we're okay. Okay, James Gill there. Yeah, Sci-Fi Model Shop is here. Hi, Sci-Fi Model Shop. And there was someone upstairs up. Okay, cool. All right, cool. And there was someone up here that said something so kind. and I want to take a moment here before we do the drawing. If I could find it. Someone said something about Boyd. God, maybe it went up. I'm so sorry. Someone said it. Now the chat's going. I don't know, Andy, if you know that there's a channel called Trekworks, and is by Boyd was the gentleman who ran it, and he is the person who got me into wanting to get better at modeling and lighting. And he had a wonderful channel, answered questions from people. The guy was a master, absolutely master. So he inspired me, and so I created this channel. And he was so cool. He would send little notes. You know, he commented on some of the videos and just encouraged me and everything. He was such a great guy. And we lost him to cancer in the spring earlier. Someone up here said that it was like I had picked up where he left off, and it's like I want to cry now. But he had a show like this where he had creators on and stuff. And when a few months ago, he said he was going to bring the show back, and I was like, "Oh, great!" He was planning to start it in July, and then he got worse and wasn't able to pick it up. So, anyone here who's interested, who isn't a subscriber to Trekworks, go check it out. Especially if you're into modeling, he's got series, tons of series, and it's still up there. And step by step, you won't go wrong. He was really good. So I wanted to acknowledge that, chat. I did catch that earlier, and I really appreciate that sentiment. So yeah, Mark Ware, Boyd was a beautiful gift. He sure was. Pug and Boots says he'll miss his videos. Yeah, and someone in Doomcock's Friday stream mentioned him too. So he was, you know, there's a lot of us out there that were there. Oh, Heather L's here.
Well, that's what I try to encourage people to do is like you don't have to go and buy something. Like the main thing that I love about this stuff is that well, the studios have let so many of us down. They've taken our favorite things that we were there with, and we supported for years, and they've demolished them and they've desecrated them. But what's important is your reality can sit on your shelf. You can, I mean, how many people would you sit there with, like, you know, you're watching Star Trek, you've got original series, you've got Enterprise timeline, you've got time period, and you can say to yourself with Star Trek, what if this generation of Bird of Prey or the Romulan ships, the Romulan warbirds would come? What if they met each other? And what if, like, you know, like we had this big time loop thing, and you had all these different things from different periods show up? It's not that much different than what was the movie where the aircraft carrier went back in?
The Final Countdown.
Yeah, that was, I was like, wow, what a concept. Like, you know, the same thing could be happening. And you can, when I was little, my dad fought in World War II. So I was always into World War II things. That's how Captain America became my favorite. It was like, wow, my dad fought in World War II. Captain America fought in World War II. It was neat. And I had all of the model airplanes hanging from my ceiling that I would put together. And I would paint them and do all the decal work and stuff. But when you can create your own things, you can, there's, like, Brian Hepburn had mentioned kit bashing, and that to me is like, it's one of the most fun things you can have, because you can go online. What I'm doing with a lot of my collection is I'm creating a collection that I want. It's not necessarily representative of, say, like the MCU. Chris Evans did a serviceable job as Captain America. He's not like a definitive Captain America. Captain America to me would be much more like, you know, the guy that's playing Reacher. He's got that kind of stoic attitude. Chris Evans was a little bit more like, you know, touchy-feely, kind of like sad puppy dog eyes and stuff. You know, good movies, but like he didn't capture that larger than life essence that is Captain America. But I want something on my shelf that's going to represent the comic books that I grew up with. I'm doing I'm sculpting a younger version of Sebastian Stan when he was acting, when he was like late teens, early 20s.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to dress him up like a Bucky outfit. So it's going to be like, it's going to look more like the comic book character. I did a custom Submariner figure that I still have to work on the ankle wings and the wrist gauntlets for. But I'm doing these things that like, and you can go on, say you have a favorite character. Say you have, like I do this for people, like I get commissions and I sculpt people's head sculpts, and they can take that head and they can put it on a different body, and they can, I just did one for a guy. He's a big Resident Evil fan. He sent me a picture of there he is fighting zombies in like the Raccoon
Mhm.
City police station. And it's great when you see things like that. I've um a very good friend of mine. There's actually a Star Trek reference in with this. Um, I like dummy. I got rid of all my toys when I was a kid, like most of us did, because we
Yeah.
outgrew them. We had to be cool and all that.
Or
And
mom, or we get home from college and mom's like, "Oh, I cleaned up the attic."
thanks. Yeah.
Right.
So
If no moms did that though, this stuff wouldn't be so expensive. It would be everywhere. So
exactly, yeah. It's like the modern stuff now. It's like we have ollies, but I a friend of mine calls me up one day, and this is back in like 1994 maybe. It's like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. Why? Like, so, um, like, feel like taking a ride? Where to? Like, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. I'm like, for what? There's a Star Trek convention going on there. It's like, I didn't know you were that into Star Trek. Well, I have this doll of Ilea, and the actress is there. I want to get her to sign it.
oh wow.
Now, at the time, like my hair is down to the middle of my back. Um, he's a black guy that plays bass in a heavy metal band. He's got really long hair. He's all decked out in black and leather jacket with Indian feathers hanging off it and stuff like that. So we hop on motorcycles and we drive for an hour out to Valley Forge. We walk in there, and I've got, at the time I was spending most of my time riding my horse. So I had jeans on, which were the bottoms were stained with like mud and horse shit, and beat up old boots and like leather biker jacket on and really long hair. And we're walking through this Star Trek convention, and everybody that's dressed up as a Klingon is looking at us like we're the weirdos.
You're like, you don't fit in here.
And like, so he goes and he gets in line. He's like, he said, I kind of felt really bad because I wanted her to sign the doll itself. And here she is looking at this image of herself. And I'm like, pulling the clothes back so she can autograph the doll. And it was good that he got it done because she had passed away not too long after that. Like, well, I mean, relatively, but
Mhm.
that was, and I'm thinking, I said, wow, adults can collect toys. He's like, I think now he has like over 1,000 of these things, and so I had done him, and several years, probably about 10, 12 years ago, I'd done him his own action figurehead, and he put it together and put the whole biker jacket on and stuff. But then he was like, I got better, and that's the thing, I keep getting better with this stuff, and so I redid his head sculpture, and I sent it to him, and he's like, dude, that's great, but I'm bald now. So now I had to like go back and like take the hair off and do and send that out to him. But he sends me pictures periodically of like he's got uh his action figure playing guitar with Kiss because he's got the whole Kiss set up at
Oh,
the
very
soundstage.
cool. And the
He's
same
got
scale, so it works out, right?
Guns N' Roses and like and all the BB King. He commissioned me to do a sculpt a BB King head for him. I'm working on James Brown and Bill Cosby for him that he wants.
My gosh.
So it's like you find these things, and what I try to do is encourage people to, you can do so much of this yourself. You can go on eBay and you can find outfits and you can find bodies and you can find uh, various head sculpts that you could fan cast with things. There's so many things out there, and I like 6 scale because it's versatile. You can do a lot of things with. There's so
Mhm.
much out there. 1/12 is like a good thing because it's a middle ground because you can the small scale you can have ships with and things.
So 12 scale, so everyone knows, is about a
6 inches.
human body with about 6 inches.
Yeah,
12 or 6 scale is a 12-inch figure would be about a 6 foot person, right?
correct.
So like
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Real quick, I before we get Fern because we're having such a great conversation and there's people here. I want to do the spin here. So if we can. Are you okay with that, Andy?
Oh yeah, I got plenty of
Okay.
time.
All right. So here I'm gonna add this to the stage and oh, okay, y'all can see that. I'm just trying to mess around. There we go. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. So I'm gonna hit the spin now. I'm gonna spin until somebody says, "Hey, I'm here." When that thing comes up, if I don't know who you, so some of these people I know who you are. If it's someone I don't, I have built a didn't build. I put up a private or an unlisted YouTube video in order to verify it's you. So what I'll do is I'll put the link to that video in the chat, and whoever wins, you just go into that video and type your email address in the comments. I have locked the comments out, so they're not public. Only I will see them. So that way I will verify. I'll see your YouTube name and I'll see your email address next to it. So that way I know that nobody's claiming to be you that won. Did I explain that? Do you understand that, Andy? I hope
Yeah,
I
got it.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do. And it might take me a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and spin this sucker. And here we go. Are you guys ready? Here we go. And thank you to Antiderivative Jill who helped me pick this. And hopefully you guys can see this. Whoops. I don't know if you can read it very well. What is it? Oh. Did a name come up? Do you see it, Andy?
I don't see it.
Did anyone see the name on? I didn't see it. I'm gonna have to hold on a second.
There's Vanna White when you need her.
I know, man. There we go. That's a little better. I don't know if thing is working. Okay,
Jill, help us.
I'm going to reload this thing. Okay. My apologies, everybody. It's a new thing.
Antiderivative Vanna.
Yeah. All right. So just so everyone knows, it didn't come up with a name on my end. So I'm not like respinning this to get a winner that I want to see. The name usually pops up. I tested it a few times. Here we go. All right, now I think it's working. There it is. Oh, okay. Name, woman, address, shoe.
Okay.
Well, if name, woman, address, shoe is out there, I haven't seen that person in the chat. So we're going to go again. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, we're going to just keep spinning. And now if I do spin and let's say Herc 130 comes up and he doesn't see it, he can come back at the end and say, okay, I got it. So we're going to wait, here we go. Is it going to click one? Glenn Han 938. Glenn Han 938. And maybe if here, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put these things in here. I'm going to type it in so I don't lose the order. Okay. Okay, we're going to Pleasant Valley Picker CA. You are on the wheel, sir. I did remember it here. Let's see. I did see you in here when I put this thing together. There's Antiderivative Jill, William Shakespeare. So if William Shakespeare pops up, I know that's William Shakespeare.
They're saying the first one was Carla Burton, the woman shoe thing.
Wait, was it?
Yeah, that's what they're saying in the chat, unless I'm reading this wrong.
Oh, really? Oh, Carla won.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Carla Burton won. Whee! That was you. Okay. I didn't know that's what your thing said on your YouTube channel.
Name, woman, address, shoe.
Is that really you, Carla? I mean, I totally trust Carla's, but like probably one of the most trustworthy people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just we've chatted. I mean, a lot of folks on here I've had the pleasure of speaking with. It worked when we tried it. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, Carla.
There we go.
All
Yay,
right.
Carla.
Well, see, here's the thing. Now I got to ship something across the world.
Yeah.
But hey, I did not limit it to.
Yeah.
I did not limit it. All right. Well, Carla Burton won. Wow, very good.
Be
I have
careful. She
so
may
many.
send you some Vegemite in revenge.
No.
Carla sent me some
That's
Vegemite, and I
why.
was like, "Well, that's an interesting flavor. I can't say that I'm necessarily going to have it again, but it was an interest. It settled my curiosity because I always, as I listened to, uh, who was it? I come from a land down under. The old song in the 80s. And it's like a Vegemite sandwich. I'm like, what the hell is Vegemite? And like, now I know what Vegemite is. And like, there was another one she sent me too that was a little bit better than the Vegemite, but it was,
Well, yeah, it's right here. It's a Marmite. I
yeah, yeah, that's better.
I
Yes.
heard Carla talking about
Oh, the
that.
chocolate. She sent me these chocolate covered pineapples. Oh my God, they were so good. Oh, yeah,
Yeah. So
they didn't last
okay,
very
all right.
long.
Well, congratulations to Carla Burton who gets the Enterprise. So, Carla, I think we are connected in Twitter. I believe we are. So we can get a
That'll
hold
work.
there,
I
and
can
then
look it up.
we'll work out what you want. So you'll get to pick how you want it lit. What nay you can have it say Enterprise. You can have it the USS whatever, whatever you want. I can make the decals for it and get it to you. And that wow, probably DHL. I think is the one that will end up shipping it overseas. Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, congrats. Hopefully everyone's happy. Happy for Carla. I mean, I wish I could make 100 of them for everybody, but I
Yeah.
can't. But
Yeah.
wow. Well, very good. I'm glad that we finally found a winner for that. Congratulations to you, Carla Burton. I was going to put like some clappy sounds in there, but oh my goodness, Miskatonic Madman. What are you doing, man? What are you doing to me? Another $20. Some wampum for shipping costs. Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you
There you go.
so much. Yeah, I monetized this, you guys, not because I don't want to become rich. I'm not fooling myself. I mean, I'm not like Mr. Beast or anything, but if I could ever get the channel to where it just supports the hobby and allows me to send stuff out to
Yeah.
people, that's my big goal. So that really helps. Thank you so much, Miskatonic Madman.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing that I've done so
yeah.
many of these action figures for people. And obviously I would love to be able to keep doing that, but it's like, I mean, it's about $100 per figure that it costs
Yes.
me to get these things and mail them out. It's like it puts quite a, and I've had people in the six scale community reach out to me and like just have me do a commission for them, and they can't believe how cheap I operate to try and do some of these things because they you'll go and you get a custom figure. I have a friend of mine, he's a painter. He paints the prototypes for NECA, for a sideshow. He's an amazing painter, and his paint job, for just a paint job alone for a six scale figure like this, $200 minimum of just the paint job.
Wow.
Now it is breathtakingly amazing. Like you'll zoom in on this thing. Now, like this is I bought this off of eBay. It's a Luke Skywalker head. I have some
Oh, here,
nefarious plans for this.
let me see if I can. I don't know if I can.
That's not important.
There we
Like,
go. There we go.
yeah,
I
this
figured it
is
out.
this is a Last
Wow.
Jedi Luke Skywalker that I have some nefarious plans with.
Oh wait, I think I noticed from the grumpy face.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely Last Jedi Luke.
yeah, it's going to be it'll be interesting anyway. Um, but you can see how small the eyes are on this. It's about the eyeball. Like when I sculpt, I use these little porcelain balls to go in for the eyes, so I don't have to try and sculpt them perfectly round.
Uh
And
huh.
they're millimeters, so it's like it's very very small. And he paints the lines inside the irises in the eye. That's how detailed.
Wow. How does
it
he do
is.
that? Does he with his brush?
I think it's magic. It has to be because I have I have no idea how he's not that much younger than me, but I think he's about 50, and I know he's got some jeweler's glasses and things that he does this with, but like
Yeah.
I can't imagine how he gets that level of detail and that level of. I got a pretty steady hand, but not that good. It's
Yeah, it's like that little scene in Toy Story where the guy was fixing Woody and he was shaking,
yeah,
but then once he started, he's like just smooth.
yeah,
My grandfather was a sign painter too, so I
mm,
and my uncle inherited that steady hand, like smooth as glass. My grandfather, he all the signs he did, he started the sign shop in the 30s and it looked like stuff you would do on a computer today. He was
yeah,
so steady. And
yeah,
it's amazing how some people can do that, but I can't imagine getting that. I mean, I can do okay on a 1/12 scale,
yeah,
but not not any smaller than that.
yeah. It's amazing.
And Brian here says $200 is reasonable for a good paint job. Custom
Yeah.
sculpts are rooted
Well,
and
Brian
rooted
knows
there.
his six scale stuff. He's a connoisseur, and but my goal is just to help make people happy.
Yeah.
I prioritize different things. I had been working on a Jack Kirby head sculpt for Clobbering Times for about a year and a half. I
Oh
just
man.
hadn't gotten it right yet, and unfortunately, he passed before I was able to send that off to him. I know when I made one for Gil, he was just like ecstatic over this thing that he absolutely loved. And then like I started working on. I told him I was going to redo his sculpture a little bit because the
Mm.
source pictures that he sent me were kind of a little shaky and stuff like that. It was really hard to capture a lot of detail. And then I saw he's got pictures on Facebook, and I'd reached out to his brother Rita to try and get some better pictures, but
Mhm.
he's busy and stuff like that. But I I want to redo it because he's there Cam, he's a great guy. He really wants this thing to have of his friend there that was such a big part of his life. And
Cam's crash
I did
courses.
that like my brother Ed. I made his figure here, and it's like you know um, it's like he can't be here with me, but in a way he can kind of be here with me. So
That's your brother?
yeah,
Oh
like so.
wow. Oh here, let me put the solo layout there. Oh wow. That looks like you.
Well, we're brothers,
I
so
mean,
that's
yeah, but I mean, no, but that's what I was saying. Like earlier when you said you had sculpted yourself, was that weird for you? Oh my goodness!
well,
Look at
no,
how.
because you have to practice, and what better face to practice on than your own because you look at yourself every day.
Yeah, I do
You
now. Yeah, now you say that. I remember in art class, they had us to do a self portrait. But was it weird? Like you're sculpting yourself. Like, oh yeah, there's that freckle, and then there's
well, it's interesting because like you kind of lose um you get kind of caught up in the work. It's not really me. It's like it's the shape. It's like
mm-hmm.
my drawing professor in college was like, you're drawing shapes. You're not drawing people, things. You're drawing shapes, and
Yeah.
everything is about a shape and how the shapes correlate to each other. And that's important. That really helps you to get that the way the face connects, and you get into like the anatomy of underneath the face, the shape of the skull and things.
Well, there's the third rule or whatever, where the
Yeah.
eyes are about the level with the yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's accurate and sometimes it's not. Um, my daughter, I did one for my daughter years ago, and she's like, "You made my nose too big." I'm like, "Well, she's got my nose, unfortunately." But uh, she, I told her we're gonna rework that for her so she can have the action figure she wants. But
So you're gonna give her action figure plastic surgery.
well, it's like I've gotten much better the more I've done this. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done I think over 30 sculptures for YouTube content creators, and
Wow.
it's gotten me like a lot of attention and things. But it's mostly people will approach me like, "Oh, I'm not big enough for you to make one of me." I have a friend of mine. We were on the sideshow website together, the forum groups, and I've known him for a long time. Dean Last, he's got Dino's Reviews. He does, and He's been, a long time fan of things like, so I made him his own action. He's like, I'm not big enough for like, it's not, I've made figures for people that have no subscribers, that don't have a channel, don't have, just
Mhm.
people that have an appreciation for something. And like,
Sure.
when you share that kind of passion with somebody, you can give them the opportunity where they can put, say you got Nick from Echo Base on there, like, and I'm sending him out the Jedi outfit of him and Coach Jedi outfits to go with their figures and extra heads. They can pick up some bodies, pick up some boots and a lightsaber, and they can dress the thing out themselves. And they can put that on there, having a duel with Darth Vader. Sadly, we know how it'll end up, but
Still,
fortunately, though, for them, we know now that being stabbed with a lightsaber is not fatal. So
no,
when their figures
it's
get
not.
stabbed, it's, it doesn't have to mean that they're dead.
Yeah, yeah. Even though like 20,000 degrees has gone spread through all your organs,
Yeah.
rub some dirt on it, like you would say, right?
Yeah, it's a little cooked, but
So, I guess we're getting close to wrapping it up. I think we can go another 12 minutes if that's
I'm
okay.
good. Yeah.
Because I think our friend Tony is going to be on. Uh, why am I blanking the name? Culture Casino.
Oh,
Tony's
okay,
guesting on
cool.
Culture Casino tonight.
Yeah.
So Culture Casino is a great channel. He does some cool stuff. I was gonna share something real quick just for everyone who's here. You all get a little sneak look at the current project I'm on. And here we go. So there is if you ignore
Ooh.
the glass of whiskey up in the corner, that is the bird of prey that I'm actually going to turn that into a diorama. And so I might need some tips from you, Andy.
Okay.
It's going to be on Vulcan from Star Trek 4, and I'm going to print the decal for HMS Bounty and put that on the side. So
Ooh.
I've done my best to rough this up a little bit and put paint flecks. I did a technique called hairspray, salt and hairspray technique.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
No.
It's pretty cool. I can't zoom in much more on this, but if you see there's little flecks of silver running around.
Do yourself
And
a favor and reach out
yeah.
to Gary about weathering techniques. He
Oh yeah, I
completely
will.
he completely changed the way that I did weathering. It's so much more effective and more what's the word I'm looking for? Um Stunning. It really
Mhm.
makes it come to life.
Oh yeah, thanks, Mark. Um, but yeah, the salt and hairspray technique is cool. So what basically the idea of it is, you prime your piece, and then you put on top of that whatever base metal you have. So like your car, if you were to smooth out all the paint off your car, it'd be aluminum underneath or steel, right?
Right.
So that you pick a silvery color. Then before you put your base coat, you get some hairspray and spray it on because it's sticky, and then you get some salt. And what I do is I'll crush up like kosher salt, and we'll get a mortar and pestle and crush it up, and that way you get varying sizes of salt flakes. And then
Hmm.
what you do is like you hold the ship upright, and then what you do is you sprinkle the salt on top, and it acts like the ship is flying through the atmosphere, and the salt will stick to that paint. Then you spray your base coat, and when that's done, you just take a brush and brush off that salt, and those act as little masks. And
Hmm.
when it all done, it looks like it's been paint flecked. And this is something that Herc 130 probably has done this because it's a big military, like people do tanks and planes and stuff like that. It's a good
Yeah.
technique. But yeah, I plan to pick Gary's brain and yours. Oh, Culture Casino there. Hold on here. Let's make that.
Yeah,
Wow,
I've done let's see,
that's
I'm
after
thinking.
a haircut. It looks like.
Well, I was a little. We'd started on this. I'd met up with him at a meetup in Orlando a couple years ago, and I talked to him about this. And I kept, look, if you want one of these, like, send me these reference pictures. And so about a year later, he finally sent me the reference pictures, and his hair was a lot shorter. It was right after he got the haircut for the donation that he does, and I said, well, it's the other problem with it too is like I am not going to sit there and do rooted hair. It's like that I don't know how to do it. My daughter knows how to do it, but I'm like, I'm not. I'm going to sculpt hair. So, but if you went longer, you would lose articulation in the neck, so you wouldn't be able to move the figure. So this was
Mhm.
a good. So I made this, and I sent him his figure, like his beach punk, and he's got selling his little stuff. He's got a little cart with it, and he's selling his stuff on this little cart for the beach.
That's
And
cool.
then Toxic Man Flu commissioned one of those from me, so I made
Oh.
him as Hobo Gandalf and sent it to him. So he
Oh, I stand corrected, or I sit corrected. Starkavire says it's next Sunday night.
okay,
Okay.
there you go. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's culture with his outfit there. Yeah.
that's great. And I miss it. And William Shake Skeletor, I apologize. Thank you for the $5, man. I appreciate that. A well-deserved win for Carla Burton. Yes.
Yes.
And fortunately, the home team got the save just before that starship flew away to some other port. Thank you, William. Thanks. I've been having fun with William, Antonio, and I have been doing some writing together. So
Oh,
that's,
there you go.
yeah, we're having fun doing that. That's on the pop culture side. But so if you can't, because so you've got a channel. So let's talk about your channel for a minute if you can. So I haven't gone on today to see, but do you want to talk about your last video that you've done or
I did a
anything in the future?
comparison. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be helpful to people that want to get into the hobby. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of people go into this and they're very intimidated by the pricing, and it can be insanely expensive. There's a there's a company out there called InArt, and they do these absolutely stunning pictures of um, or action figures. They did a Gandalf with real rooted hair and a beard,
Ooh.
and the thing, it looks like you shrunk down Ian McKellen and uh, put him on there, and it's frightening how good this thing is, and but it's about $550 to order. Now they just came out with, they did Aragorn. I think he was just released. He's about 550. Now they just did a Nazgul with the horse, and it's about $940 for the pair.
Oh my
Now that's
goodness.
too rich for my blood.
I think everyone here.
But it's there's so many things that you can do. So let's say, for example, that you have there's a company, forget the name of the company offhand. Maybe Brian can chime in there with. Um, they've done some very good Star Trek figures, 6 scale Star Trek figures, and they're beautiful. And you want your collection up there, but say you had a favorite character, a favorite that's not going to get an action figure. But there's a lot of third-party companies that will start to make these obscure things in the background
Mhm.
that are unlikely. Like, so say you want to get a figure from Hot Toys, and Hot Toys is kind of like your premier Exo 6. Thank you.
Mhm.
Your premier 1/6 scale company. They're not. InArt is probably the peak of uh, amazing detail and so forth, but Hot Toys is kind of like the big kid on the block. Everybody compares themselves to Hot Toys with good reason, but Hot Toys is not going to make an obscure character. Hot Toys
Right.
has made like 1,000 Iron Man figures because they sell. But there's been a lot of things they've announced that were never ever released because there's not the market for them. Howard Chan has come out and said they will never ever touch another action figure from the sequel trilogy again because they sold so poorly, or I guess didn't sell. Um, and but you can go to people like me and say, hey, can you sculpt me this character?
Mhm.
And I've got people that I'm talking to that want the Orville characters. The thing that's holding me back with that is, like, I don't know that I will be able to do justice to the outfits, because I'm reasonably good with doing some clothes and things like that, but there's some things that just
What do
you
you
would
mean
need.
reasonably good? No, you're amazing. What is your
There's
clothes?
there's a Facebook outfit called Gee Whiz Customs, all the stuff they do is on Facebook, and it is amazing the detail they do on these things. It's frightening,
Yeah.
but you pay for it. It's I was going to get a 6 scale Winter Soldier Bucky from the first Avenger, like when he was in the gear, and it was like $350, and I did not have $350 to shell out for the clothes to a figure. I wouldn't even pay $350 for a full figure, just because I can't
Mhm.
justify the cost for it when I have, like, a house needs to be painted, and and like I need
Yeah.
to, but these are things that, like, you can do. You can flesh out your my friend Tom. He goes and, like, he's a big fan of the uh, uh, Final Fantasy VII. He built this whole
Okay.
diorama and stuff. They started making 6 scale characters for this, and so we've done his head, and he's got himself with mixed up in this environment, this bar scene with all these different characters. And that's what I like to do is go promote third party companies that make things a lot more affordable, and
Hmm.
but more importantly, kit bashing things yourself and putting
Yeah.
things together that are relatively inexpensive. You can get a stock body that's a clone of Hot Toys True Types anywhere between $16 to $20, and then you can get a head sculpt for another 20. So for about $50, you could have yourself pretty much um, a premier quality figure for your shelf. And I always say that if anybody comes over to your house and complains, well, it's not Hot Toys, you just throw them out of your house and enjoy your collection, because
Yeah.
you're not there
So
to
go
make them
ahead.
happy. You're
Yeah.
there to make you happy.
I was gonna add, do you think there might be a chance for a secondary market for hot toy stuff, like people that make accessories for these things? Because I know
Oh
you.
yeah,
That's one of the things I think you're really good at is you. Whenever you make a character, uh, you always have the great accessories to them. Like you just mentioned with Culture Casino, you got the little cooler or the beach punk stuff, and you got the cape for Gary, the Gary vampire.
yeah,
Um, yeah, these accessories really make it complete.
yeah.
So I
Well,
wonder if
I
there's a secondary market for that stuff.
there is well, I would say that I'm trying to build awareness to people that, number one, this makes for a really cool hobby to get into. Whether it's like, you have your, like we were talking earlier, about running out of space,
Mhm.
and which is always when you're working with large scale things, large scale props. You've got starships that are pretty large and with some amazing detail and lighting effects and things. But
Yeah,
how many can you actually fit in a room? Now, it
yeah.
would be great if we all had an acre of land, and we could put up a giant pole barn that's climate controlled, and we could build out like an environment that we wanted, and you could have like this space field out there,
Well,
and
no,
and
wait a minute. Wait for the other kit builders out there. We need 2 acres. We need 1 acre to display the stuff we built, and another acre to store the boxes that we bought that haven't been opened yet. And I know Herc
exactly.
130. If you're out there, I share your pain, man, because I'm running out of room just to store the kits. Like, oh, I'm going to buy that. It's right. Like you probably go and you find supplies or materials or things like you probably have a mountain of stuff somewhere, right?
Yeah, it gets very cumbersome to have all these things in the way, and but what are you going to do? It's like you have to have them
Yeah,
because you need them. It's necessary. So, but you can get into this hobby relatively cheap. Like, now, it is addictive. Everybody that gets a collection of anything, it does get addictive. But if you keep
yeah.
yourself under control and you stick to some, like I've got Marvel Comics. When Star Wars came out with Sideshow did this licensing for them. They went very, very extensive. I told myself I was only going to get select. I got Jedi and Sith. That was it. Now, I did order the Han Solo, and I got a couple of the clone troopers. I was going to sell the clone troopers, and my son, who has his own Jedi figure, said, "Do you have to sell them?" Like, well, I don't have any room for them.
Yeah,
Like, he's
I'll
like,
take them.
"I have room for them." I'm like,
Yeah.
so now they sit on his shelf like he's flanked by two clone troopers. I don't think it ends well with him with Order 66, but uh, he
Yeah. There's or
um,
yeah. I think we all know that pain.
yeah. But that's what you want to do is I want to get people. Your canon should exist on your shelf. I would like to take.
Mhm.
I bought a different old Luke Skywalker head, so I could have Jedi Master Luke Skywalker sitting on my shelf. Not the one that Disney and Kathleen Kennedy created, but it's a proper representation of what Luke should have grown into being.
Well, like
Um,
what? Well, there we have that in the books. Like I'm sure
well,
there's some
that's
whatever
another thing.
descriptions are in the books. You can.
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm trying to do is making representations of Kyle Katarn and Mara Jade. Like now, for Mara Jade, I would say that like there's a lot of people out there that have fan cast these things from anyone from Nicole Kidman. I know that Shannon Boxer did it was the actress they hired to pose for her when I think Wizards of the Coast
Mhm.
did it. They did the photo shoot. Um, but there's I've seen someone use a Karen Gillan head sculpt as a Mara Jade figure, and that those are things that I tend to do myself. Like if I want somebody like I'm doing an original Human Torch figure, obviously not on fire because you can only do that once. And I took a Ryan Gosling head because this head sculpt looks exactly like somebody you would see in the 40s. And so he's my stand-in for my original Human Torch. I took a Sam Worthington head and I modified it into a Widow's Peak and put some pointy ears on him. That's my Submariner, my Prince Namor Submariner, because I'm not going to have defile my shelf with Namor, the uh, the the boy who lived without love, from the MCU and Wakanda
Oh
Forever.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
now, that's not what I grew up on. That's not what I'm interested in. I want something that's going to represent the comic books that I grew up with. And you can do this. You can make your own, and the pleasure you get from looking up on your shelf and seeing something that you made there, you put together. It's like it's not everybody. You don't have to be the best sculptor. I'm not the best
No,
sculptor in the
no,
world.
it's especially if it's just for you. I
Yeah.
have like for instance, and I know a lot of purists would get mad at me. I've got the Enterprise uh the 650. Well, it's up there. I can't my thing will come crashing on me if I grab it. But I did the Enterprise 650 scale with the from the original series with blue lights in the nacelles.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not what was on the show, but I think if they'd had the budget back then and looking at it now, it makes sense to have blue and red in the front. It kind of and so I made one for Mexican Iron Man, uh, and I asked him, "Do you want the nacelles lit up? It's not canon." He goes, "Screw canon.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
that's what I want. I want to see the cool blue light." So I did that, and I like it. I've got the original one too. So yeah, and like the Enterprise D one that's back here.
Yeah.
That one. I've got blinking the navigation lights, the red and the green lights on the side. On the mine, they blink. In the show, they didn't. I
Right.
like it. I just
Yeah.
like it that way. And that's the cool thing about modeling. Some people, it's I compare it to some people who would might have a 1970 Mustang.
Yeah.
Some people want it perfectly stock. Some people want to put big beefy tires that they have to shave part of the fender off for. Okay, do it.
Well, see, that's something that like as somebody with your talents, I've collaborated with Mark S47. He's built his own droid, his own R2D2.
Oh, the
Um,
big full ones.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, remember all the ones we saw at the fan
yeah,
expo?
yeah,
You guys, well,
yeah,
Andy and I have met in person. When we met at the Dallas Fan Expo, there was a group. There were probably 12 R2s there
yeah.
of
Well,
various colors and stuff like that.
Mark was there with us. He he was looking at those because he's built those things and he
Oh,
knows a lot of
very
these
cool.
guys. And I've collaborated with him. He's the one who put the sound chips in the Mexican Iron Man stand. Because what
Mm.
happened was, so Mexican Iron Man was my first commission. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, um, can I get um, a Mexican Iron Man? I want to get a Hot Toys Iron Man figure. I want you to repaint it." And I'm like, I'm in. Dude, these things are like $300, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't want to mess that up. But look, here's the knockoff version that's $90. And he's like, that's a better idea. Let's get 3 of them. Because he sent one to Robert Meyer Burnett. He's got one. He sent one to Doomcock. So, but one of the things, one of the wires came off, and I don't mess around with electronics. I can do all the art you want. I can sculpt things. Like Gary does a lot of things that are very mechanical.
Mhm.
He's got a CAD programs and stuff, and he does. And I'm just learning, trying to get started 3D printing, and I'm going to have to do some tutorials on that. But he has, he does machine things. I do organic stuff.
Now
I
I
can.
do see something blinking there in your background
Oh,
behind you.
that's my light. That's my window with the lightning in the background, like
Oh,
you know,
okay.
showing up the
Now, did you
clouds.
put that lighting together, or was it a something you
I bought it off
bought?
of Etsy. It's like $12
Oh, okay.
on Etsy, and it's a it plugs into a 9-volt battery. So I got the USB adapter for a 9-volt battery, plugged it in, and now I've got lightning in the
Yeah.
back to go along with my haunted theme, which I appreciate. It's like, so. But what I did with the Mexican Iron Man figure, I got the Iron Man thing, and it's lit up, but one of the wires came off. So I'd been talking to Mark, and I said, "Hey, can you fix this for me?" Um, and I explained to him what it was. He said, "Wait, this is for Mexican Iron Man. Can I do some more stuff to it?" And I'm like, "Sure, knock your socks off." So I sent him the thing, and excuse me, he added sound chips to it. He put these buttons on the stand,
Mhm.
and every time you press a button, you would have a different Mexican Iron Man saying, and you were like, "Woo! Oh no!" And all his little, and you had these
Yeah.
things like rabbit chicken, and so he's we've collaborated several times on these things. But now one of the things you can do is say you want to make a background, and somebody like yourself could come along and say, here's how you would light that thing.
Mhm.
Say, like, I have a window here. It's like that was like, oh, one flashing thing. Wow. I don't need a whole tutorial on that. But let's say, for example, you wanted to make a uh you buy these Exo 6 Star Trek figures. You want to take the original bridge of the Enterprise to go with your Kirk. You want to build this out into something that you can make work. You could take the styrene there and put the things in there. And Sean, I need help. How would I light this thing? And I know there's different kits and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
I have no concept of how to do any of this stuff. But you could probably make these things and dress it out and say, here, for those of you who want this background for your Exo 6 Kirk, doing the chair, lighting up the chair, lighting up like Kirk's little Spock's little
The little
console
or
that
the
he left
buttons
in.
on the chair, the little light up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you could do all that stuff, and like there are people out there that are willing to pay for that. I'm looking to address the blue collar collector that looks at these things and like, I wish I could afford that. Like, well, you
Yeah.
can. You can. It might not be that one, but there are ways that you can do this stuff and you can get a hold of some of these things, and they're very affordable because I look at it this way: in the long run, there's these third party companies that make these unlicensed figures, and you would think that it's going to hurt the sales, and like the big companies don't go after them because it actually
No.
helps sales.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
have something that can go along with something, but Hot Toys would never create some random Andorian character number 3, but maybe that was your favorite.
Yeah.
And I want that
Or you
guy.
wanna build a scene. You wanna build an
Yes,
Andorian ship. You wanna have Shran up at the front and then
right,
the various sub commanders behind them
right.
or sub
But you don't
lieutenants, I
want to
mean.
pay for, back in the old days, like, I'm pushing 60. So they used to sell GI Joe figures, but they also used to sell GI Joe expansion packs. You could buy the outfit and swap them into a policeman's uniform or an astronaut, and different kits that you could get. And you had one figure and you could just swap out the clothes with. Well,
Yeah.
kind of like what you're doing here. It's like you get a base body, you get a different head, you could put it like, boom, there it is. It's like,
Mhm.
is what they did with all the background characters in Star Wars. Like, yeah, throw this little robe on here, like do this, and you walk by. And there's people out there that have made fan fiction about random guy number 3 that walks past the camera. Like you
Yeah,
have the ice cream man guy, like that runs in Empire Strikes Back.
yeah,
They've made figures of that. It's
sure. Or
it's a
any
big
number of
deal.
things, like one of the various aliens you see in the Men in Black movies or something like that. There's
Yeah,
some cool characters there.
right.
That
Well, you can make your own stuff. I have a scene I did with after my brother passed away. I made action figures of my whole family because like we couldn't be together in real life, but we can be together on a shelf. And it's like, my dad passed away in 91. My mom passed away in 92. I've got action figures of them that I can sit up there and like, and I have a whole setup I did at my dad's old bar. And like, so me and my brothers are hanging there at my dad at his old bar.
that's cool. See, some families might want to build one if you could do one with the little pull cord, and then they have arguments with each other like they really did at home.
Yeah, have little AI discussions, program them so they can still be arguing back and forth.
Yeah. That would be funny. But yeah, that's cool. So, what's next up on your channel? Do you have any videos coming up or
Well,
series?
I'm gonna do the making of my little Sam from Trick or Treat
Oh, hold on.
that I just put together.
Let me enlarge that.
I have to get
Oh,
his.
wow.
Yeah, there's a movie called Trick or Treat. I might redo his head, make it a little bit bigger, so it's a little bit more in scale. I think it should be a little bit larger, so probably about that big. So I'll probably end up doing that. And he's got like his little. He wears a little hooded mask. Here's the actual maquette from they did of the movie.
Oh, how cool is that?
So it's like I made a small version of it because it's Halloween and he's supposed to be the spirit of Halloween. I'm going to do that. I just did a video on body comparisons. It's
Oh,
like
really?
when
Okay.
you're getting into 6 scale, one of the things that when I first got into this, it was people were using a lot of Hasbro figures. They were using Dragon and Dreams. There wasn't a big selection of bodies that you could get, and so now it's different. You have a large variety of different size bodies, and some of them are a lot cheaper. I just got one. Rancor Steve, a good friend of mine, and he's not the tallest guy in the world, but he's got a huge heart. But if I'm going to put him in scale, you know, now it's in scale. He's smaller than me.
So do you
So
have to shorten the legs there, or
no, this body, this is made by 23 Toys, and it's smaller than this one. So I'm
oh, okay.
5'10", so Steve's 5'6", so it's like you have a
Okay.
comparison there.
So when you order these bodies, you can say, okay, it's a 6 scale at 5'4" or something,
Well,
or what?
you have to kind of get some when a new body comes out. I would generally order the new body just so I can know what I'm dealing with because I have customers that um, will want it in scale. Like let's say for example, um, you have Tom Connors. Okay, I love Tom. If I made Tom kind of svelte looking, so like it would look nothing like Tom. Nobody would say like it doesn't
Mhm.
look like Tom. So you have to kind of draw a balance there between like, all right, Tom's a little heavy, so I'm gonna put him on a larger body. Now I have there's some options here. This body that he's on, this is a world box body.
I love
And
that one.
it's got a belly on it. It's like
I
I
gotta
can't show you the
larger
actual body because they're anatomically correct, and YouTube would not like that. Oh, and if you get
Probably
into this
Tom wouldn't
hobby,
either.
be careful because there will be detail on this stuff that you do not want to see. And
Wow.
you don't want to think about why there is that kind of detail and what kind of
N
attachments you can get. It's disturbing,
Yeah.
but there's
Eh
people out there that like that. So, but this body here is about $65. It's very
Oh,
heavy.
wow.
It's about like probably a little under a pound. Whereas like the average body you get is probably about like maybe 6 ounces.
Wow, that's
But
that is pretty heavy.
yeah,
Wow.
if this thing falls, like, here you go, ready?
Well,
That's
it shook your camera.
yes, that's this
Wow.
thing, and I dropped it from 1 inch, so it's pretty
My
heavy.
goodness.
Now there's other ones that you can get that are gigantic. Like I have this guy here who's not anatomically correct. If he is, he's got a problem.
Who is that?
But
What is that from?
this is a body that I ordered. It's called Malau Toys. It was originally for a
Oh,
Yakuza figure, and the
I'm
other
so sorry.
person.
I thought that was a little head up there.
No, this
Sorry.
is a neck adapter. Okay,
Oh, okay.
here
So
you
yeah,
go.
I'm learning. Well,
So
oh, now he
there's
Culture's been
massive
working
culture
out a little
casino.
bit. Yeah.
So the neck adapter goes on here, and you can pop that
Oh,
on there,
okay.
so it fits on it. Now you can get the neck articulation that you can move his head around. There's different styles of necks. So I just did a video explaining all these different kinds of bodies that you can get that you can use for various. Here's an extremely muscular one that I think they developed for Henry Cavill's Superman.
I
It's
was
like
gonna
so.
say, I thought you were previewing that you were making mine.
There you go. Like,
That's my body right
believe me now and hear me later. It's like, you got the,
there. So that's
but it,
Henry Cavill. Wow.
well, in comparison, you see this here. Let's pop Culture's head back on here for a second to give you some frame of reference. You can see the size difference here.
Yes.
So if we were to put Ranker Steve next to this guy, it looks like he's out to,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
he's on the school trip and he's a chaperone. It's like, so it's, there's a huge variety in these
Oops.
figures that you can get, and you want to get the one that's right for your project, because there's uh the big deal right now in a lot of these is buying these seamless bodies, which are very expensive. They run about when I did the Gina Carano figure, I put hers on a seamless body because, well, Gina's she's not svelte. She's very voluptuous, and like, so you had to get one that's going to exemplify that. So I picked up this body and I dressed it up. It was an expensive body, and it works out great. But you don't always need that body. For example, if you have a body that's going to be covered in clothes,
Right.
you don't need the seamless joints, and that silicone skin on there is really tough to try and pull fabric over to dress it. So that's an issue like that you're going to struggle with trying to get this thing on there and adjust, because that stickiness that's in there. So if you don't have a figure that needs to have exposed areas, like there's going to be like a shirtless, like Submariner figure. That's what I bought for I don't know if I still have him here, but it's a seamless body because he's basically wearing a swimsuit. So
Right.
I needed a seamless one for him. But like this Hot Toys Captain America figure here, he's covered up. So why should I spend an extra um, $80 or $60,
Yeah.
$70 for a body that you're never going to see?
So that's a
Plus,
Hot Toys right there, you
yes,
said?
this
See,
is Hot
now,
Toys.
those are expensive, and I'm not just saying this, but I think your stuff's better, dude.
When you
I
see
really
these
do.
in person, Sean, you see the level of detail that they get into with the stitching, and the sculpted
Well,
everything is like it really is a work of art. I've
maybe
shown.
so, but they have artists and designers and teams of people that draw these. They have these things out. The stuff you're making, you are all 100% in your head. I mean,
Yes, thank you.
you're coming out of this stuff. It's all here. These people that do the Hot Toys, they're scanning stuff. They're looking at computer CADs. They've got the best equipment. I mean, I can only imagine what you would do if you had that kind of equipment that they have to make that stuff.
It's funny because someone had said to me, um, "Can I do them 3D printed?" And there's a program called ZBrush where you sculpt in the computer.
Yeah, there was someone earlier in the chat that said I saw it. I was going to bring it up later about what you thought of 3D printing, but go ahead and
It serves a purpose. You're going to get an incredible amount of accuracy. um, and there is an artistic talent to it. Um, it's it's very useful for a lot of things. Like, there's stuff that, like, you can print out that it's not feasible to make a mold of. Now, Gary was just telling me he saw, while he was out in Knoxville at the ICC Con, there was a guy who made these little tiny miniature um, Star Wars figures, like, and they look like the 3 3/4 inch, but they're only this big,
wow.
and the cards and everything looks amazing. It's I don't any the guy said Gary was talking to the guy, said he made silicone molds of them, and um let's see here. I'll put that up there.
Oh, here,
That's what they
hold on. Let
look
me.
like. I don't know if it's going to come through, but
You may want to get
they're,
a little closer.
see here. Let's do
Oh,
this one. Here you
real
go.
quick,
This is
Brian is saying good night. Brian Dogman, hey,
yeah,
thanks for popping in, man. And I appreciate all the things in the chat that you were saying, Brian, for the tips and everything. I'll look into
yes.
that Vallejo stuff. Yeah, show it again, Andy. I'm so sorry. I just didn't want Brian to leave without
Oh yeah, yeah.
acknowledging it.
But like on the bottom here, this is uh that's a $20 bill underneath. That's how tiny they are.
Oh my, wow.
So it's like
Okay.
you see how small they are.
Yeah.
And this fellow's he 3D not he doesn't 3D, he silicone molds them and injection molds them into there. And that is incredibly difficult to get that level of detail
Hmm.
into a silicone mold and be able to pull that thing and then paint it. 3D printing is so much easier and so much faster for a lot of things and less time consuming, especially with the incredible amount of things that are available out there on things like Thingiverse. People put out 3D models for things you can print out free of charge or for a very low price.
Yeah.
So you can load up on your own accessories. Like last year, I do different themes and stuff like that. We're on Doomcock show, and I'll dress out the crew. Like I dressed everybody up in a Ghostbusters outfit when the movie came out back in the
Yeah.
spring, and like just changing things up a little bit, just because I get bored and I want a different look for things.
Hmm.
So there's a lot that you can do with this. You can make your own collection. You can add your own input to your collection. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm really trying to encourage with people because look, life is miserable enough. Every time you turn around, there's bad news. Nothing goes the way it's supposed to. There's always a problem. Wouldn't you like to walk in from work, sit down in front of your shelf, look at your collection? You know what? I'm going to go up there and I want to pose my action figure of myself next to Iron Man.
Yeah.
I want to stand next to Captain Kirk. I want to take my Sean Carter action figure and I want to put him in a Starfleet uniform and stand him there on the bridge of the Enterprise. And you
Yeah.
could be whatever Enterprise you want. And that's the nice thing about this is that, like, and it's a collectible. You think
Yeah,
about
and
this.
that's what we did as kids anyway. Like we
Yeah.
were Luke, we were sometimes Vader. I know because Gary always identified with Vader. He said, but whoever we chose to be, and now what you're doing is you're adding a level of depth to that, and to
Yeah.
where you
Well,
can really be creative and still play. 'Cause, I mean,
yeah.
that's what we're doing. We're playing. I mean, I was gonna get a shirt made that says my wife lets me play with models, like it says something like that. But yeah, and it's fine, it's fun, and it's okay to play, and that's what I think we're doing. And hopefully our channels are helping some people do that.
Well, I think it's a great form of therapy. I think that
Yeah.
the creative process is so rewarding just in the fact that look, I've had people criticize my work. I am not the best sculptor in the world. I'm getting better and I'm pretty good, but I'm not nowhere near the best. I would feel
Mm.
humiliated if someone held one of my figures up. next to a Hot Toys figure or an in-art figure, but I contribute something unique, which is my personality in the things that I've done for people.
Yeah.
I just did one for the quartering, and I dressed him out with a coffee with an apron on with his coffee brand thing and like little bags of coffee because he has his coffee company.
Yeah. By the way, really good coffee, by the way. Coffee
Oh,
brand coffee. It's excellent.
yeah,
I'm going to order the spiked jack-o'-lantern soon here for the fall. It's really good.
that's a good idea.
I'm
I
not
I
being paid
need
to say that.
some fall stuff,
Yeah, it's
but
good
it's
stuff.
like I don't do these things to like, it's nice when you get a shout out from people that like that are, I've been on a number of I've been on a culture show, I've been on comics division show, I've been on with the Echo Base Boys. There's a lot of people that I've met. Everyone has been incredibly nice to me, incredibly kind.
Mhm.
And I'm not looking to I promote myself like my goal is pretty much the same as yours. I want this to kind of pay for itself so that I'm not in a deficit like from like and I do things like I've made figures for people, then they come back and like, are you sure you don't want more than this? I'm like, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
because I want people to have these things. I'm not looking to retire and like and make like for me, I would because I would feel I would feel horrible that if someone spent more on a figure that I made them um, than they did on a Hot Toys figure, and then they hold them up and like, I paid this for this, but this one's
Well,
so
it's
much better.
different. It's different. There's also the thing if it's a custom thing. I mean, you're doing something custom for them. You're designing it. You're sculpting it. It's not like,
Yeah,
hey, I paid $600 for a mass manufactured Iron Man. Uh, versus you made something that's just from nothing. I did I'm so humbled by it because I made for Admiral Teague. His favorite is the Constellation from the Doomsday Machine,
right.
and I had an Enterprise model. It was the 650 scale, and I was building it, doing my video, and I was putting the bottom part of the hull together, and it was warped. It came out of the factory horribly. It's like, man, I was gonna throw it away. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save this because I don't know if I can do something with it later. And then one time I'm listening to Teague and he's talking about the Doomsday Machine. I'm like, I can make the Constellation out of this. So I cut it up and I got pieces of styrene, the girders, and I made a battle damaged Constellation class ship and I put burn marks on it, little plasma fired flickering thing inside. That's one of the coolest things I've made. And he's always referencing it on his channel. Like,
Yeah.
and he tells me sometimes he'll just sit there in the dark and turn on the little plasma. It's just two fiber optic lights that flicker in the impulse engine. He said sometimes he'll just sit there and stare at it and he'll put himself in the bridge.
One of
Stuff
the
like that.
best, yeah, I know exactly how you feel because one of the best things that I ever heard was Mexican Iron Man said his son came over and couldn't stop playing with his Mexican Iron Man action figures. It's like,
Oh,
how cool is that? That your kid's there playing with a toy of you,
yeah.
along with like, this is my dad. My dad's my hero. I mean, what
Yeah.
father doesn't want that? That is the most amazing
That's
thing right there.
my heart would melt right there if I
Well,
could do that.
that's what
My
I
kids
want
would have a
too.
hammer on it.
I want people to have something that is special to them. It's like one of the nice things that I said to somebody, they said, "What do you get out of this?" And I was like, "Well, I look at all the toys that are out there, like we talk about like the sequel trilogy stuff that's in the Ollie's. That's going to end up in a landfill.
Mhm.
I I guarantee you that all the figures that I make, they're not going to end up in a landfill until like 4 generations later. It's going to be like, oh, that was my dad.
Mhm.
That was my grandfather.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that thing center? Oh, that was my great grandfather. Somebody made him an action figure. Like, whoa, that's pretty cool. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that the stuff that I've created is not going to end up in a landfill somewhere.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like, and that's one of the things that I try to do with this is I want people to get along with each other. I want
Yeah.
people to be authentic and honest and be kind to each other, and we're in this together. We're here because we're fans of the same kinds of things,
Mhm.
and that should be a thing that that we strive for. That should be something that we're looking to do for each other. To be like, we can't go and escape into something that they've destroyed. You're not going to sit there being an original Star Trek fan and go into and watch Discovery. Um, one of the best things I made for Doomcock was I made Michael Burnham a Michael Burnham action figure in a janitor's outfit, cleaning up the holodeck, and on the
Yeah.
holodeck control was Discovery program, and it was
Yeah.
like so the whole thing never really happened. It was just a holodeck program the whole time. Um,
Yeah. Full disclosure, guys, we are a little biased against Discovery.
well,
Yeah.
it doesn't fit, does it? It's like Kathleen Kennedy trying to be George Lucas and be better than George Lucas. Well, you're not a creative, or if you were, you would have done your own things. This is my objection to people that come along and they do these clever reimagining things. If you are, unless you make something that is going to last 100 years, it's very arrogant of you to come along and say, "I'm going to modify this. I'm gonna change it into my vision." Well, you haven't created something on that level that you can do that with. That's kind of um, you're not talking about Romeo and Juliet, and we're casting it in the streets of
Y-
L.A. in
Yeah,
modern day.
and to point out, and good night, Gap After Dark. I saw you
Nightcap.
were saying, um, but to put a thing on it, what we were kind of talking about before about putting us on the bridge, or we change the ship to the way we like it. That's not what you're talking about here. You're
Right.
talking about changing the IP itself, not
Yes.
having your own adventures. Because like we all had adventures where we were Luke Skywalker, or some kids would get a Luke Skywalker figure and a Superman figure, and they'd make up their own adventure with those two. That that's the creativity. But when they try to do that with the IP, is I think what you're talking about there, when they
Yeah.
that
Yeah. They changed the
hubris.
source material.
Sure, yeah.
It's different than like you get a Luke Skywalker figure and you paint the hair brown.
Yep.
That's a lot different than you saying, you know what? Here's Luke Skywalker's better older brother. Luke is like, and this guy was actually the hero of it. Like that's you can
Yes.
have the
Larry
universe.
Skywalker.
Yeah, the universe is big enough that you could have your corner and go have your adventure.
Hmm.
You don't have
Hmm.
to change everything, and that's the problem with it is like that they haven't had the respect and the admiration and the revelry of uh um of the original product. And for those of us that have, and this is the problem when they go along and they change things and they recast things.
Hmm.
Like I'm a Marvel Comics was my first uh passion. And they come along and people will say like, "Oh, what do you care if they race swap somebody?" Well, that fundamentally changes the character. What
Hmm.
do you mean? Because there's stories that can't be told if that's different. Like because you're not going to fit into that. It wouldn't have happened that way because there's this difference on in the Marvel comics and set in the 1970s and 80s. It's like if that and when you go and you change that thing on screen, that means that those stories that I really loved when I was a kid can never be put on screen now because you've changed this thing and made that story
Hmm.
impossible because you
Hmm.
wanted to tell your own story. Well, if you wanted to tell your own story, make your own character.
And that's the thing, because I watched a couple seasons of Discovery, and the stories themselves were okay if it had been something else.
Yeah,
It okay, cool. She was communicating with herself in the future. So, okay, cool, cool. But as to our hobby here, so what that does, it also takes away the toys, it takes away the model build, it's like I'm buying up enterprise kits like crazy, because one day they're not going to be made anymore.
right.
Thankfully the Enterprise D was just released from AMT. That's the one that I'm building there. I always do this wrong hand. There it is, everybody. um, yeah, but yeah, we're getting. Oh, we just hit the 2 hour mark, so I think we'll call it there. I want to thank everybody, you Andy, for coming in, man. That it's been so much fun. I would love if we could have a conversation with you and Gary.
Oh yeah, well we
Uh,
could
uh,
definitely make that happen.
yeah, that would be
And
cool to have the three of us go.
I would love to see you with your knowledge of Star Trek and your knowledge of these things. One of the things I really liked when I was watching that was like all the different kinds of ships. You had the Reliant, you had all these
Mhm.
different like classes and things. I would love to see you use your creativity with like and create your own ships like and do a CAD CAM thing and make things, print them out and like and put them in with your stuff. It's like
I've
uh,
thought of that. I've been thinking about that, and I was going to ask you. So someone brought up 3D printing. I used to be against it. The 3D, everyone got into 3D printing. Mark D with a C, who's in the community, he does a lot of stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cheating. And I started thinking, like, no, it's not,
no.
because there's so many things I want to build. For instance, one of my favorite movies ever is The Black Hole.
Hmm.
I would love to build a Bob and a Vincent,
Yeah.
and the Cygnus, which was a cool model, man. If you anyone who's out there, go back and look at some stuff of how they built the Cygnus for that movie. My goodness, is beautiful. Uh, so I'm not against it, but the thing is, it's another investment. It's another learning curve. I'm still trying to become amateur level on the stuff I know. I'm learning stuff all the time, and that's one thing I am trying to do on this channel. Like when I'm doing videos and I make a mistake on a model, you're gonna see it.
Yeah.
I screw up, like that bird of prey I was just showing you. Those wings are misaligned.
Yeah.
When I took another look at it, I'm like, uh-oh. But and I know I can fix it, but I'm like, I'm just gonna go with it because
Well,
only
you
I
know what
know.
though? But that's the beauty of it because too many times people think that they see someone create something
Mhm.
and they put you sort of like on a pedestal, like, wow, you did this. Like, no, 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 I've made all these mistakes. It's like, I do uh I do discussions on different channels and things about like, health and things. And I explain to people like, look, I've made a whole bunch of these mistakes. I've learned trial and error for everything in my life. And it's good though, because most of the time you're going to learn more from your mistakes than you will from your successes.
Mhm.
So when we put it out there that like, it's like my little Sam figure, I made the head too small. Oh,
So what?
well,
Yeah.
now I got to make the head a little bit bigger, redo it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know what? Somebody sees me, say they really like the stuff that I do, they're impressed with what I do, and they say, wow, this guy made a mistake, and said, okay, well, I got to redo it. Like, so I went through the whole process of sculpting it, trying it out, making a mold,
Mhm.
casting it, and painting it before I figured out like it's too small.
Yeah.
So I just put in 8 hours worth of work into something to scrap it and start over. That's
But
what you
you
do.
but it wasn't, but when you think about it, it's not wasted because we got the practice. Whether you're still perfecting your skill, you're still practicing. And one of the best comments that I got, it was one of the first video series I did, was the Enterprise C. And I lit it and I was real proud of it. And someone said in a comment, your seam lines aren't that good. Like you're showing the seams on it. And at first I was like, why don't you do a YouTube video? And, and then I thought, I'm like, no, you know what? I asked for people to tell me that. And ever since then, I got better at it. It improved me. I'll thank that. I don't even know who the person was, but I'll mention them a few times now and then. I'm like, hey, thank you for telling me this, because I did the Deep Space Station K7 from the Trouble with Tribbles, and I got those seam lines perfect. Like you can't see it one.
You know what's
And I
funny
was, yeah.
talking about this? When you talk to Gary, who's seen these real props up close and personal and worked on them on
Hmm.
screen, and he'll tell you it will be the most upsetting thing in the world for you to see them in person because you see nothing but imperfections because they know that the camera's only going to pick up so much. And so they don't
Yep.
have to be good. He said, like, in one of the ugliest things you've ever seen was the spaceship from Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
look
I've
at it
seen
up
it.
close, and it looks like junk, and it's
It
like,
looks like popsicle sticks put together
yeah,
on something. And someone earlier in the chat, way when we were back in an hour or so ago, said something about TNG. Like when you look closely at those things, those ships were just imperfections all over the place. So, uh, yeah, Jill's right here. Constructive criticism is invaluable.
yeah, and the ability to
Yeah,
take it well. You'll
yeah,
get people that, like, if they get a criticism, they get upset and butthurt. They get like, how dare you, like, and you know what? It's like, like right now there is there's a fight going on in the YouTube thing in comic books between Eric July and Ethan Van
mm,
Sciver. Okay, now I like both of these guys. Um, I understand Ethan Van Sciver lives about 20 minutes from me, half hour or so. I've met him several times. He's been
oh,
extraordinarily nice to me. Ethan Van Sciver is an egomaniac, and he stirs the pot. This is no surprise to anybody. It's like Eric July is an incredibly nice guy. He's innovative. He's like, people can criticize his stories and stuff like that. Like, so what? I don't care. I think it's kind of dumb to be arguing over this stuff. But when you have somebody like this, even if you disagree with them, Ethan Van Sciver brought up a great point. He said, listen to your haters, listen to your
mm,
critics, because they will tell you what is a problem where the people that like you don't want to hurt your feelings because they actually like you. Those people that are criticizing you, and I'm not taking a side with either one of these guys in their issues. Um, but it's great advice to listen to your haters. When you have somebody that's been in this industry for a significant amount of time, and it's going to be, hey, um, I've had to listen to my haters, had to listen, and I've used their criticism to improve me. And this goes along into things like I like when people will criticize your volume's too low. I don't know how to do this stuff. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm a middle-aged guy with, like, I'm an old guy trying to figure this crap out with, like, I've never been on a camera before. I've never been, like, it's not my thing. I'm trying to put out a message to people like, here, take this stuff and make your own shelf, and then
mhm,
send me a picture of it because I'd love to see it. Like, I
yeah,
love to see what people do with their own things. And they'll be like,
yeah,
well, it doesn't look as good as yours. So what?
yeah.
Make it.
Yeah, and with that, I want to remind everyone watching here. So, I do that. So we do share on here the stuff everyone's created. Trek Mods is one of them. He's been in the chat. I've got so many submissions from people. Great work they're doing. There's one person sent in. They did a UFO abducting people off a model train. Like he did the model train stuff, but he did this UFO abducting people out of it. He mixed the two genres, and it was really cool. So yeah, everyone, my email address is in the about section on the channel. So if you're working on anything, and it doesn't have to be science fiction. Like I said, we've got the one guy that's, hoping to have him on, Terry, who sent me tons of pictures of this of the monster's house, and I'm talking it's big. It's like the American Doll size house. He's got every little and you would love these. I'll send you some of these pictures. They're amazing. What this
Yeah,
guy's
please
doing,
do.
it's right up your alley. The little coffin, their grandpa sits, and the little phone inside of it. I think he had a
Yeah.
phone in there. He's doing everything, and he's documenting all this. And I say, hey, you know what? You should make a coffee table book out of this. He goes, wow, yeah, maybe I should. So that's the kind of stuff. So everyone, if you're working on anything, Track Mod has been sending me stuff. Terry, Ian, I'm trying to remember everybody's name. Send them to me, science fiction or not. Send me your airplanes. Like I've got this is the Mavericks plane that I did.
Wow.
um, that came out fun. That was fun to do. Send them over to me, and then oh hey, Wagnar's here. Hi Wagner. Oh wait, he's been here. I can remember. Wes Cagel's here. That sorry. Hi, Wes Cagel. Anyway, yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up with that.
Yeah.
It's getting late, and but Andy, thank you so much for coming on to the
Thanks for
show
having me.
and
Anytime you want me,
review.
You want to just, swap
Oh,
out
we're going to
stories,
have a
questions.
lot more
Yeah.
conversations, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So I really appreciate it. It would be great to get you and Gary on together, and I'd love to just hear you guys ham it out, man.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody in the chat. I've tried to say hi to everyone that I've seen, and the super chats. Oh my God, I'm humbled. Thank you guys so much. And Carla, if you're still out there, I will get a hold of you, and we'll start getting get your thing. I might even do some live streams with that if I can, but I'd have to cart a camera out there. I don't know if I can do that, but we'll get it out there, and hopefully it will survive shipment. So I'm gonna have to bubble wrap the heck out of that thing. But luckily that Enterprise model ships well. It made its way to Mexican Ironmans, even though he dumped the box. If you look at his unboxing video, he like tilted it and the thing like falls out. but he made it. So Mark Ware, oh, thank you, Mark. Great stream. Great show. Okay, yeah, thank you, everyone. All right, and I will see you backstage, and I thank you guys, everyone. It's a great kickoff. Really had a good time. Andy, real quick, you want to plug your channel one more time before we?
Laboratory Mayhem, 1/6 scale stuff mostly, and there's some other stuff in there, but it's kind of like whatever's in my head at the time.
Okay, great. So yeah, Jill, if you still have it, can you plug in the link one more time? I don't have it on me, and I don't want to close. Well, I see a picture of you holding two naked bodies.
Yeah, that's
review
that's
of 23 toys.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I don't know. Let me see. Let me try to get it. I don't want to leave without sending a link out there. Here we go. Someone say what now? Oh, Salty, I think saw me saying hold it. No, he's reviewing those figurines there, Salty.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm just gonna copy that. Oh, there you go. Heather L got it.
Thank you, Heather.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, everyone, thanks, and we'll see you down the road. We'll see you sometime soon. Okay. See ya. Bye.